Welcome back to the channel. I hope you all are having a great day. So, want to talk Rachel, Marianne, and Tulsi. Of course, Rachel, we're referring to Rachel Maddow, Marianne Williamson, and Tulsi Gabbard. So, as many of you all know, we recently had Andrew Yang on the Rachel Maddow show, and a lot of people didn't like how that show went. And I didn't really like how the show went either. I do like that Andrew Yang stuck to his guns, but we could very much tell that Rachel Maddow, her whole thing, such as many of the Democrats, is still stuck on this impeachment thing, and that's all she wanted to talk about, right? It was about the impeachment. They're still stuck on this impeachment thing. Now, where I'm a bit confused about the impeachment, the whole impeachment situation, is this seems to be what the Democrats are focused on because they believe that this is their ticket to defeating Trump, right? Um, but I think a lot of people are misguided at this point. Somehow, and the economists know this, the economy, and a lot of us are already feeling it. Probably most people are already feeling that the economy is bad, right? But the fear has been that Democrats have kind of went with this narrative that the economy is good and Trump has this good economy and it's hard to defeat a sitting president in a good economy. But this economy is not good. Somehow it's been propped up, by the Fed. And, all economists are pointing towards, we're headed to recession. And that's no longer going to be the proper narrative. So what I'm trying to figure out is why aren't Democrats doing more research and digging and understanding that impeachment is not the is not the only thing in the toolbox, right? But they're just fixed on that. I mean, for weeks on, they really think so. They want the whole conversation to be based around this. So the Rachel Maddow show that's all it is, right? A lot of these media shows are just like these opinion based hit pieces, right? That's all they are, and they're just hours and hours of that. Nobody's really reporting the news anymore. And it's just so weird to look at these things. I don't really watch them, but they're really strange. These things where media and politics have merged, and this has just become the norm, right? But anyway, Andrew Yang tried to kind of get Andrew. She wanted to pull him into that. They already know he's doing well with the freedom dividend. They know that's gaining a lot of attention and support. They already know those things, right? So they don't want to focus on they don't want to focus on the good parts of the Andrew Yang campaign. They want to push the narrative of this impeachment thing, and they want Yang to kind of be on board with that. So that could be their number one thing. But Andrew Yang, being the problem solver that he is, he stuck to his guns. I really like that. I really like the fact that Andrew Yang didn't kind of take the bait and get pulled into that, impeachment thing, but more so dealt with, hey, we got to go back to everything that's happening with Donald Trump, the impeachment and everything that's been happening is a symptom of a more bigger problem, and impeaching Donald Trump does not fix the problem. I don't know how many ways that we can say that. I don't know how many different ways Andrew Yang will have to say that to get them to understand that, but that is the reality of the situation, and everybody knows it. But for some reason and I'm trying to figure out who are the strategists behind all this stuff, and if Democrats are really trying to win this thing, right? Now I'm not saying that the impeachment shouldn't be brought up, but I think it should be handled in a way, that it's not the focal point of what's happening in our politics today. Night in, day after day, that's all we hear. It's just craziness. It's ridiculous. And so Andrew stuck to his guns. He let them know about that. And then, of course, with everything that's going on in Turkey with the Kurds and this crazy pullout Donald Trump did, and Andrew Yang stuck to his guns again because now, of course, the narrative is, see, what it's become, really, really what it's about is that they're doing similar to what the Republicans did to Barack Obama during his administration. That is, everything he does, they're going to go opposite that, right? So if Donald Trump is, pulling out troops, they're going to form this whole big narrative about, oh, well, all the troops should stay there when we've always been trying to pull out troops, right? So it's not about the pulling out the troops, but it's just the moronic behavior of Donald Trump that, of course, only he would do something like this, where he's going to bring the troops home, but he's going to do it abruptly overnight, right? Like, anybody, every war we've been in, when we were in Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, everybody knows the process of how you have to withdraw troops, right? And of course, the moronic Donald Trump, only he would come up with something as crazy as he did, right? So they want the narrative to, to be for Andrew Yang to kind of go with, oh, I wouldn't pull out the troops and leave the Kurds to fend for themselves that way. And what it does is it prolongs something on and on and on. And what you're eventually going to still end up with is the endless wars. Remember, endless wars are justified to no end in the same way. So that's what they wanted Andrew to say. But Andrew said, no, at some point, the troops do have to come home. It's not the problem of withdrawing the troops. It is the problem with the moronic way that Donald Trump did it. Anybody, knows that. You don't have to be General Patton to know that's not how you would withdraw, troops from a war zone. It's just ridiculous. But anyway, Rachel kept trying to, play to the impeachment withdrawal, trying to play that with Andrew Yang to kind of get him to move in that position. And I very much like that Andrew Yang stood his ground that, this is the candidate I am. I'm not really left. I'm not really right, but I'm forward. And that's what it's going to take for us to really solve the problems, deal with the problems, and not have these reality TV shows going week after week after week on these media stations, right? And of course, they're getting high ratings. I get it. This is the idea of their shows, to get high ratings, and we kind of have to play the game because the power of the media is still reaching millions of people, and Andrew still needs to resonate with independents, people who just haven't quite got there yet. He still needs to be out there reminding Americans this is why, and he's relevant, he's here, and this is why you need to vote for him, right, coming election. So he needs to be in the media, but I like the fact that he sticks to his guns. He should continue to do what he's doing. Now, as far as I could see, it was nothing really Andrew could really do different. He was going to be kind of boxed in with the questioning from the Rachel Maddow show. And here's what I think needs to happen, too. This is what I think needs to happen. This is what I would do if I was the campaign manager of the Andrew Yang team. When they come on these shows, I would, want to speak with these people first, even though you do that sometimes it still doesn't work. I want to speak to these people and say, well, look, hey, it is very fine that, we answer whatever questions you may have, right? But we need a very balanced, broad view of questioning. And I would just tell them the whole story because, look, there's a lot of negative things that come out of the media. And what we want to do is we want to make sure this is a balanced interview. We don't mind answering any questions you have, but we would like balanced questioning about the entirety of our campaign. And I think the campaign management should make sure that when we agree to go on these shows that, hey, look, we're fine with any questions you have, but are we going to get those important questions to our campaign as well, right? We would like to know what the questions are going to be like. We don't need to know exactly what the question is going to be or what direction you're going to be in, but we would like to know if there's going to be a broad range of questions about our campaign and not just something that we feel is going to make us look in a negative, light. I hope those type of things would happen and would go on, right? But I think Andrew did a pretty good job, of course, anytime Andrew's dealing with the foreign policy thing, that is still an area I think he does need to, even if the idea is to have the domestic policy be this strong defensive policy that resonates to the rest of the world, and then in that it becomes a very defensive way to protect our country um, abroad as well. But I think it's important that that message be delivered with efficiency, at least in a way where even if you're more so presenting a more of a domestic policy to a foreign policy, it is set up in a way that it addresses a lot of the foreign concerns, right, that come our way. So yeah, definitely still could use some brushing up on that. But overall, I get, what direction of Andrew is in that area. And I just think he needs to fine tune that for the questioning because millions of people are watching, and make sure that, he's kind of, pretty strong in that area. Let's talk about Marianne Williamson a little bit real quick. So Marianne was on the Young Turks recently here, and everybody knows I love Marianne Williamson. I really wish she could win this thing, between her and Andrew. If Andrew didn't win, obviously Marianne would be my next person, but, I just don't think it's in the cards for Marianne. But she did bring up some very interesting points on the Young Turks recently. She talked about, because of course she wasn't part of the last debate, right? So she talked about, how unfair that is. And I agree with her, right? And how the media is really got more of a big control over our democracy, right? Because to the point they're imbalancing it. And if we really look at this, that's what's happening. Because think about this, the media is so influential on how they present our candidates, how they chop up interviews by asking certain questions. They can make you look bad or they can make you look good, and it's just it almost ought to be laws against it, right? That you have to do balanced interviews. You have to give the same amount of time to candidates. Now, some people would raise the argument that, oh yeah, we can't have all these people on stages. Some of them are obviously performing worse than others, right? Some of them, and they're just taking up space. They can't win. They can only maybe split votes. They're the last on the polls. They're polling at 1%. And we just can't have 30, 40 people on stage. And I think that's a fair point. But here's what I'm saying, though. You can at least have it where everybody gets the same amount of time, right? Or they mute your mic or something, right? Because some people just talk all their time to keep talking. There does need to be a way to just cut your mic off so the moderator's not arguing and fighting with a candidate for 5 minutes later about his talking point time is over. So it should be something like that. But it should be to where everybody gets the same equal amount of time, the same chance to answer every question that is asked, and that done in an efficient way, to the point where then as candidates get eliminated, it's a much more understandable and fair situation to platform, because these media events, oh man, they have a lot to do with who becomes the candidate, the president, and all of that stuff, right? You cannot deny that. And that should be looked at as a threat to our democracy, if I'm being honest about it. And it's kind of surprising to me, because there are all types of rules and regulations against candidates about how much airtime they can get, right? If you're a celebrity, you can't get as much airtime as a normal candidate, because if you're on TV too much or radio, there are rules against that, right? So if it's rules against that, why is it that these big media groups are able to let a candidate talk for linked on in, and they're biased in their questioning? It should be something that we need to examine, and something that should be looked at. But I thought Marianne made a good point of that. Marianne, still talking a lot about the spiritual makeup of what's missing in the country and what needs to happen. Of course, Marianne still is candidate year 1 million or year 3,000, because she's just so far ahead of our consciousness right now in that area. But oh man, I just hope she gets a cabinet position in Andrew Yang's campaign. Talk a little bit about Tulsi real quick, and we'll wrap it up. So of course we've heard everything that's been going on with Tulsi and Hillary Clinton. That is another weird set of events where she's calling Tulsi a Russian agent. And you're trying to figure out, where in the world is something like that coming from? It is crazy. And you're starting to understand that there was a history with Tulsi and Hillary. And Tulsi was kind of the it girl, right? And she was a war decorated congresswoman. Tulsi Gabbard has all the makings of the perfect candidate, right? And apparently she was kind of like the golden girl of Hillary Clinton in Congress. But after the debacle with Hillary and the corruption and going against Bernie and the Democratic convention and Debbie Wiser House, is it? After all of that, Tulsi went over to Bernie, started supporting Bernie, and I guess the story is Hillary got all upset, and now all this crazy allegations are is just crazy. It's coming out about Tulsi, which I don't, which is ridiculous. I don't believe anybody really deep down believes that Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian agent. But it is crazy. I'm starting wondering what's going on with Hillary Clinton these days. Is she getting kind of older, starting to get kind of a little bit off there? Is something crazy going on with that? But craziness, but between Tulsi, Marianne, and Andrew, I see them as the perfect group. Of course, we know Tulsi in the debate, she's very supportive of UBI. Very good sign. We already know Marianne Williamson has adopted her version of UBI, different from Andrew's, but yet still a version that can help a lot of people. Looking back at the Andrew Yang campaign, what it looks like about to happen here. It looks like Biden, Bernie, and eventually Elizabeth Warren are all going to fold away, right? And you know who's going to be left? Pete Buttigieg. I've always been worried about Pete Buttigieg, right? Pete Buttigieg is the safe play for the Democratic Party, right? And it's going to take the people. I don't know how they keep breathing life back into Pete Buttigieg. I don't know how he's done. I thought the South Bend incident was enough to stop him. He somehow got through it, and they're trying to build him up to be. He's going to be their fail-safe, right? Pete Buttigieg, watch what I'm telling you guys, is going to be their fail-safe, right? But Pete Buttigieg is so establishment, right? He's starting to feel so establishment. He is the continuation of the no change Congress, right? And I hope a lot of people wake up to that. I hope a lot of younger people who are maybe kind of drawn to Pete. I hope the LGBTQ community. I hope a lot of them wake up to that they're kind of, I believe, use this image of Pete Buttigieg to draw them in. I don't think Pete Buttigieg in himself is a bad guy, but I don't think he's going to represent any of the changes we need in this country to go forward and really get to solving the problems we really need to be solving. And I don't think Pete's going to do that at all. I think Pete's going to be a type of continuation of, of everything we've seen thus far. And even though he's a very eloquent speaker, he has the characteristics of what a poster boy politician would be, right? And even a soldier, a veteran, right? So he's not a coward. We know he's not a coward. So he fits the bill, and he's very dangerous to the Andrew Yang campaign. And I really think that Andrew really needs to start setting up to focus and deal with Pete Buttigieg, right? And look at some of Pete Buttigieg's policies as opposed to like Warren and Sanders and Biden, because I don't think, even though they're kind of leaning the polls right now, I really don't think that they're going to get the nominations either. But that's all I want to say in this video, guys. Real quick, our project, BitcoinNYK.com. If you haven't joined yet, why haven't you, right? There's a great experiment on universal basic income. It is global. It is totally free, and you gain value from it. That's right. You gain value, cryptocurrencies that can be redeemed in your local currencies for other cryptocurrencies. Just a great project. Great way to experiment and get your guys' feet wet with what ideas of what universal basic income is going to be like. Obviously, of course, we're still going to need a national universal basic income. Too many people, the problem's just too big, but this is a great way to get started, and it can help a lot of people globally as well. So if you haven't joined yet, why haven't you joined yet? Make sure you do that totally free. But that's all I want to say in this video. If you like content like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and until next time, take care.